A look at power centers negotiating world government. This autumn will be a time of serious horse trading that may finally result in the announcement of the World Accord, designed to replace a system built after World War II. The US military-industrial complex, Asian secret societies, the Chinese Communist Party, the British Commonwealth, the Vatican, the Russian Orthodox Church, the Muslim, and other groups are all in basic agreement that this planet cannot continue business as usual. They are also starting to agree on a structure for loose but unified planetary federations. The main problem, of course, remains the controllers of the old system, who are not planning to go quietly into the night. A Swiss analyst discovered a core group of about 700 people who sat on the boards of the Fortune 500 and other mega corporations. We refer to this group as the Khazarian Mafia. The Khazarians still control most mega corporations, including the big oil companies, internet giants like Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple, and famously, the fake news corporate media. Their biggest source of power, of course, is their ownership of central banks. This was what they used to seize control of the corporations. This group has used murder, bribery, and lies to infiltrate the top level of world power, especially in the West. They have also strategically married their daughters to powerful people. The daughters would then indoctrinate the next generation of power brokers. For example, we are now finding out from the Russians, NSA, and other sources that German Chancellor Angela Merkel, former UK Prime Minister Theresa May, and other leaders are daughters of Adolf Hitler. We now find out former US President Barack Obama's mother was also a Hitler daughter. It turns out the movie The Boys from Brazil was based on true fact, except that it was girls, not boys. We have also found out the Clintons are actually members of the Rockefeller family. In an update to what we reported previously, we have learned that Bill Clinton's mother was a Rockefeller rather than his father, while Hillary Clinton is a daughter of David Rockefeller. Then, of course, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is the grandson of David Rockefeller. The Khazarian changed their last name in life stories in order to hide their intergenerational trail of control. For example, we have traced the Bush family name of Sherwood, Pierce, and finally to the Italian black nobility Peace family. Another thing to note about the Khazarian Mafia power structure is that they actually have a person playing the role of God in their monotheistic system. So the masses are made to believe in an abstract God, when in reality there is a human God playing that role. Of course, their God is known to them as Lucifer, Baal, Satan, Molech. If you study Jewish history, you will find that many Jews have a similar system, as do Muslims and Christians. This is where the concept of the noosphere or brain atmosphere comes into play. There is a collective thinking process going on, and certain people at certain times become keynotes where final decisions are made in the group consciousness. The person in a social group who consciously or unconsciously is the final arbiter is God. So who plays the role of God in Jewish, Christians, and Muslim religions? First, in the case of the Shia Muslim, the most powerful leader is Yahya Khan, a descendant of Mohammed and head of the Ismaili clan, also known to us in history as the Assassins. Their secret society is known as the Blue or Green Dragon. They have great power over the 200 million or so Shia Muslim, and retain great influence in places like India, where they were subcontracted by the British in order to help them keep that country under control. This person also is the controller of Iran. They get their power by infiltrating people into the inner circles of leading publicly visible power brokers, letting them know that they are vulnerable if they do not obey. They are still not on board with the idea of unified planning, and that's one reason why there is still a lot of Iran-Center tension. Hopefully, they will be brought around during negotiations this autumn. The Sunni Muslims are currently not under any form of central control like the Shiites. The closest to central control would be the leading imams, especially in Egypt. The system is definitely not centralized these days. The Saudi royal family, who are Khazarian Santanists and not actually Muslim, have tried with their petrodollars to control Sunni Islam, but basically only have whores and mercenaries under their pay. Fortunately, they have now fallen under the control of the U.S. military white hats, who report to the Christian hierarchy. The Jews, for their part, are roughly divided into two camps, the secular and the religious. The secular Jews are usually atheists, agnostics, or only vaguely religious. If they had a god, it would be a mammon, the god of money. So I suppose the family that owned the fortune of money, the Federal Reserve Board, would be their gods. For many years, that role was played by David Rockefeller, who sat at the head of the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral Commission. He was the final boss of the petrodollar system, and his death has created a huge vacuum. Much of the chaos and infighting in the U.S. political system can be traced to a fight to fill the vacuum he left behind. His backman, Henry Kissinger, tried and failed to replace this. Rockefeller heirs, led by his daughter Hillary Clinton Rockefeller, had been staging a bitter rear-guard fight ever since she lost the U.S. election, battle over electronic vote stealing, to U.S. President Donald Trump. The Donald Trump presidency was the result of an analysis of convenience between several groups who were united only by opposition to continued Rockefeller rule. One was the Rothschild family, who resent the Rockefellers displacing them in the US and Japan during the 20th century. That is why there are so many former Rothschild employees in the Trump cabinet. Rothschild should be taken as shorthand for a group of aristocratic European families who claim to be maternally descended from the biblical King David. They can be seen as the leaders of the religious Jews, whose beliefs are divided roughly into Torah, Old Testament, and Talmud, Babylonian Testament factions. The other group behind Trump's presidency is the U.S. military-industrial complex, which is dominated by the Gnostic Illuminati, a group that opposes bloodline rule and favors meritocracy. They believe the universe is so full of misery and suffering that whoever created it was evil, and they wish to overthrow it and take control themselves. So the people behind the Trump presidency were, as the Asian saying goes, same bed, different dreams. The Rothschild faction is the one pushing Trump into his overlandishly pro-Israel stance. They also try to provoke him into starting Armageddon by prodding him to attack Iran, North Korea, Syria, Russia, or wherever. They sincerely believe doing so will bring the Messiah. The Gnostic Illuminati think of this as superstitious nonsense. They want to set up a meritocratic world government. They also wish to end bloodline rule. This is the group that has been pushing for the arrest of pedophiles and turncoats like Jeffrey Epstein, John McCain, and George Bush. They also want to restore the Republic of the United States of America that was surreptitiously replaced by the bloodline-controlled United States of America corporations in 1871. The P2 Freemason Lodge are the people behind the Catholic side of Christianity. The long-term plan has been to Roman style, highly centralized world order, or New World Government. They were behind George Bush, but have now switched their allegiance and formed an uneasy alliance with the Gnostic Illuminati. They are very influential in the military-industrial complex through their control of knightly orders like Templars, the Knights of Malta, the Teutonic Knights, the Hospitallers. The Protestant half of Christianity is looser, but in large part reports the Queen of England via Scotch Rite, Freemasonry, and the British Commonwealth. They are also now loosely aligned with the Gnostic Illuminati and P2 in their design for a meritocratic world government, with the proviso that it includes constitutional monarchy where it now exists. These forces are all united for now in overthrowing the Satan, Lucifer, Baal, Molech, worshipping factions. They have more or less succeeded now in taking control for the three pillars of Western power: finance, religion, and the military. These are now symbolized by the Egyptians' obelisk in London: finance, Rome, religion, and Washington, D.C., the military. However, they will have to reach a final agreement, hopefully in form of a loose world federation that includes traditional monarchies like those of England and Japan. Now we bring China and the Asian secret societies into this picture. Before World War II, the Asians were more or less united under the Black Dragon Society. This group believed the Nazis were going to win World War II and then carry out their plan to wipe out non-European races. They were the group behind the Greater East Asian Co-Prosperity Spirit. Though the Japanese and Black Dragons were superficially allied with the Nazis during World War II, they were secretly prepared for what they saw as an inevitably East-West, North-South showdown. Now, the Black Dragon Society is a shadow of its former self. In its place is an alliance of the red, blue, green, and white dragon societies. They believe we are all born of the same creation and share the same planet. They also believe in a loose world federation, but want to ensure that anybody, and not just Europeans, can rise to the top positions. They believe Asia, which has 60% of the world populations and the large shares of world GDP, deserve its turn to rule the planet. They also say they will promise as much when they agree to provide the Federal Reserve Board with the mandate that ran from 1912 to 2012. The people behind the FRB have reneged on this promise, the Asian Secret Society say. The tentative deal reached between the White Dragon Society and its Asian allies calls for European to be the first leader of the World Federation, followed by an Asian. After this, the top job would go to the best person, regardless of race or ethnicity. The new federation would start off with a massive multi-trillion-dollar campaign to end poverty and stop environmental destruction. This would be followed by huge celebrations, including the Jew Baby, and possibly even a new calendar. Then a new age can begin in earnest. Of course, the devil is in the details, and until these are worked out, no public announcement can be expected. We will report on this negotiation in detail when they resume this autumn.